Hello, it's me, the Snake PNG guy, Nemesis Viper. I'm back again to talk about the Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee remaster, but really more of a remake. And, I talked about my thoughts about it in the last video I did, but today I want to go back to the original and give my hopes for what can be added or removed from the remake. I will put this into three categories. 1 for the online play, 2 for the gameplay changes, and 3 for new additions to the game, not including anything with the online. Anyway, I hope you all enjoy the video. So first, let's talk about the online gameplay. In this category, I have 3 things that I really hope the remaster will have. The first being online rooms, arenas, whatever you want to call them. This is probably the most important thing out of all 3, to me personally, for online, as it would make it very easy to play with friends, very easy to also run tournaments, which I really want to do, and it's just something that I feel every single fighting game should have. And I do think the game will have it, but just going to put it out there. I really want this. On the same note, having a spectator stand for them as well would be excellent for streaming matches for the tournaments. And, just be able to maybe even watch your 2 friends fight instead of having to pop it up somewhere else or stream it. You can just watch it in game. So I think that would be also very nice to have. Now, the second thing I would love the game to have is rollback netcode. Now, of course, a good amount of games do have this, but on the other hand, a lot don't. And I think it would be great as someone who deals with terrible online, as a competitive Smash Brothers player, specifically, I cannot speak, Ultimate, and someone who is a tournament organizer for my own online weekly. I just don't want to have a similar situation for Destroy All Monsters Melee. So anything to help with that would be great. And rollback netcode definitely would help. Now, the third and final hope that I have for the online is a ranked mode, or a ranked ladder. I think it would be a great idea to have this, because not only can I see it being really fun to work to get to the highest tier, maybe it'll be called King of the Monsters or something, I don't know. But I think it would also give a lot of players a reason to keep coming back and to make that replay value so much better. And that's my ideas for what to add to the online. I will admit a lot of it is for the more competitive side of the game than casual, but I think an online experience will greatly benefit from these changes if they are to happen. Let's talk about some gameplay changes. I know it has been said it will basically play just like the original. However, I'm going to put this out there anyway as someone who has a lot of experience with the game to just say what I would like changed if anything was changed. So for this first one, we need to talk about grabs. So in Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee as well as Save the Earth, when you get grabbed, you can hit any of your face buttons on your controller to struggle and get out of the grab. The more you mash, the quicker you can get out. When you get out of the grab, your opponent will be stunned and then can be punished, which seems like a fair system. You just throw your opponent and be wary that if you take too long, you can be punished. Now, if you think getting punished is wrong and that you both should be just pushed away from the opponent, like in many other games, that's fine. I can see that as an argument, but that's not my personal problem. No. My problem is that the mash in Destroy All Monsters Melee is so powerful that if you're good enough at it, you can mash out of grabs before your opponent can even throw you. Now, I will admit this can be hard to do, especially without practice, but the fact that it is possible is insane to me. Now, I will say it is harder to do on characters with faster pickup animations from their grab, like Rodan, but characters with slower grab animations like Gigan and Orga, because, for the record, it does seem when Gigan is picking you up over his head, or Orga is, or Rodan is grabbing you, that moment before they can throw you is basically what I'm getting at. You can mash during that. And so that's why characters like Gigan and Orga are easier, where Rodan, it's the hardest in the game by far to mash out of. So, with that being said, again, if you're playing against one of those characters with the slower grabs, it can be quite easy to mash out of it, making their grabs, if you're good enough at it, basically useless. So all I want is it not to be possible to get out of grabs before the person who has grabbed can do anything. Maybe they can weaken the mash a bit, or maybe you can't mash for the first 20 frames, your opponent can throw you, or maybe they could just remove it where you can mash during the pickup animation, and they can only mash after you are holding them in the air and can throw you. Anything really, as long as the person who got the grab does not actually move or wait a long time, that they are able to throw you. That is the most important thing, and this really needs to change, because that is crazy. I can't see it being a terribly hard thing to change, but I don't make games, so I could be terribly wrong. But, just please find a way to change that. Now, the second gameplay change I want is for blocked weapon attacks to deal less damage and not do knockback. You see, in the game, lasers and beams and whatever you want to call them are very powerful. And part of that is the damage, which is very high by itself, and the fact that your block, basically the chip damage is still very powerful. It is insane to me about that, especially when it comes to air lasers, that characters like the Ghidorahs and Rodan have, that are very fast, do high damage, and can be very hard to punish in a lot of matchups, when used correctly anyway. This makes them very powerful in the on the ground, just to punish your opponent when they are on the ground. And it would be amazing, even with the damage being less in general, when blocked, I think would really be well. For the game. Now, it is not useless to block weapon attacks. You don't get knocked down when they are stronger, and it does some less damage. You also don't get flinched by the weaker ones. And there is kind of like a parry system with it, where if you block it, you don't get pushed back. You can actually go through the pushback that it usually gives you. I'm not sure if that's an intended mechanic. I'm going to say it's probably not, but still, it shouldn't push you back at all. But the damage is probably the biggest point of blocking, right? So you don't take damage, or at least take less. And the fact that it's so low in defense against weapon attacks is very weird to me. It makes ranged attacks like the beams and the air beams especially, because of how fast they are, again, better than they really should be, in my opinion. Now, the last change is just to fix hurtbox detection and tracking, because the detection in the original game is very bad. Some moves almost basically never work, which, just needs to be fixed. And for moves that the monster moves with the attack, Gigan Down Fierce is probably the best example of this. They will only move to where your opponent was when you activated the move, not where your opponent is currently, which basically makes the move whiff pretty much a lot of the time, unless your opponent does not move, which I think needs to be fixed. A lot of those moves are very unsafe on shield as it is, so it wouldn't really make them broken. I think it would just make them a little bit better, so that your opponent can't just walk out of the way. But that's just me. I can see why people wouldn't want this, but I do think it would be better. I mean, again, Look at poor Gigan. Poor Gigan. That's what I have for gameplay changes. What? Oh, right. I'm sorry. I forgot one. Buff Gigan. Buff Gigan, he needs it now. Make him actually usable. Make him viable in some way. Buff Gigan now. Hey, let's talk about some new additions. I have 3 requests in this category, just like the other categories, even though that was not intentional. That is very funny to me for no reason. But anyway, the first one is a very big one in my opinion, and would also be a big one to include. And that is a rules setting. Specifically like the one in Unleashed, but even better. What would these options be to remove, you might ask? Well, here is my personal list. Number 1 would be the ability to remove the military. 2, the option to remove power-ups. 3, the ability to remove rage. Yes, I do know it is a power-up, but I feel it's still different enough that it should have its own on and off option. Number 4, the option to remove stage hazards. I'm specifically thinking of the volcano hurting you in Monsters Island with this one. And 5, the last and most important option, is to remove resistances and weaknesses for all the characters in the game. Now, in case you have never played the game before or any of the other Pipeworks games, every character has a certain kind of attack they resist and are weak to. Just like a Pokemon game. An example of a character's resistance is the mechas, being Mecha Godzilla, Mecha King Ghidorah. Resistance to edged attacks. Meaning, moves like uppercuts will, instead of knocking your opponents in the air and then putting them on the ground like they do to most monsters in the game, they will instead just be knocked back and will be put back into a neutral position. Meaning that instead of putting you in advantage and them in disadvantage, you're just back to square one. Another example of this with them specifically is certain jabs will also just not do anything to them. It'll hurt them, I suppose, but they will not be flinched, meaning they will just armor straight through it with anything, not even having to do a move, just going through it for some reason. That is really annoying, really good, and I want it gone, please. There are other examples of this, like King Ghidorah and Orga being resistant to blunt attacks, but again, needs to be removed. Speaking of blunt attacks, a weakness that a character has in this game, as an example, is Mechalon's weakness to blunt attacks. Now, when Megalon gets hit by blunt attacks, he will not only be launched farther away, he will also be launched higher, and some moves that would not knock the opponent in the air will now knock him into the air. So it makes moves that would be way weaker very good against him. And I would like that removed as well. You can kind of see why. Now, this is very much an attempt to fix the unfair parts of the game, which, sure, a couple of these were part of the cheats menu, but I just want them in an actual settings menu, just so it's more accessible to do that. However, I want to point out how I say the option to remove. The option is the key word here because I still think it's fine for the game to have it. But there should be a setting for those like me who do not want these things in the game. Now, my second request is technically something not new and probably won't happen, it seems, with the fact that the Steam page does only show there are going to be 8 maps, but I would love the return of the Xbox Edition only maps. That includes Boxing Ring, the Vortac Home Planet, and Thrashburg, which was an Xbox Live exclusive. that means you can't even get it anymore on a copy of the original game. I think it's just good to have more variety of maps, and I don't see a reason not to include them. So I really do they get included somehow. Maybe even it could be a little Easter egg where you can open up the cheat menu and put in the original cheat code for getting all the games to unlock them. That'd be kind of cool. But just, again, I think it would be fine to add for a little variety. And my third option, I think a lot of people have been asking for this, and I agree with it. I think adding skins to the game would be pretty cool. Maybe it's just recolors, maybe it's a totally different versions of Godzillas from the different movies. I don't know, just something cool like that would be kind of cool, especially if you're doing a mirror match, just to make it a little bit easier to tell which is which. That'd be pretty cool. And I don't know much to say about that, but it would just be a cool option. And also would give the points another reason to exist, as that would be the way to get them. Hopefully they would not be DLC. I pray they are not DLC if they do exist. But yeah, that's what I have to say about that. And here's a little update for you, not about the game, but just a little thing. There has been a Discord created to talk about the remaster and all Godzilla games in general. I'm in there, and we play a lot of online matches together through Parsec or the Dolphin emulator. And we're even having some movie nights where we watch movies together. Just a lot of cool stuff. So I'll put that into the description if you want to come and join that. So yeah, that is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if there's anything in the game you want changed that I didn't mention. And yeah, let me know in the comments below. Anyway, that will be it from me today, and I'll see you all soon when the remaster releases, even though I'm probably going to make a video or so, maybe a good amount of them before that. But so I don't know why I said that. Well, I don't know. Well, that's a different tangent for another day. Goodbye.